Today we're going to talk about my top 10 games of 2024. Hey everyone, it's Krosh here with the KJP show, and today we're going to go over my top 10 games of 2024 to end the year off, or begin the year, whenever this comes out or whenever you're seeing this. And let's not get too carried away. Let's get into it. My number 10 game this year is Aggro Crabs, Another Crab's Treasure. This game is a game I was very much looking forward to this year. I went into last year's PAX and tried it for the first time and fell in love with the work that Aggro Crabs, the team behind Another Crab's Treasure, put together. And when it finally came out, I got my hands on it. It did not disappoint. It was everything I was hoping it'd be and more, in ways I didn't expect. I knew, of having talked to the team a little bit, that they were really drawing a lot of inspiration from the Dark Souls genre. But what I loved about this was how much, I've talked about this before in my full review of this game, but what really stood out to me was just how much it brought so much levity and charm to a genre that is so not that. It is usually you see the Dark Souls, Sekiro, the Bloodborns, the Lies of P. There's a gloom to it. There's a seriousness to it. There's a grittiness to it. And to see a studio and a team make a game that is as punishing, if not more, than some of those games, but also doing it in a way where it's funny and it's charming, and it has kind of like the tone and look of a Spyro, of a Crash Bandicoot, of a Mario, while still being as grueling as those other games. I thought the way they blended that was just genius, and I loved it, and that's why it's my number 10 of on my list. Okay, so let's get into my number 9 on my list, and that would be Billy Basso's Animal Well. No game this year made me question what I was doing or able to do in a game more than Animal Well. I talked about this also in my review earlier this year, and I mean this in a good way. Billy Basso has been working on this game as a solo developer at Shared Memory, and it's a labor from everything that you experience and everything that you that you just see as and fathom from the world he creates. It's just such a complex and interesting puzzle within a puzzle. All the things you do exploring the world, what kind of seems like a Metroidvania minus the combat aspects of it. So just, I think there's a term for it. I don't quite know, but it's not like a Castlevania Metroid. It's more of like a puzzle solving Metroidvania, more than anything else. But it's just the intricacies of these puzzles were so creative, and everything you get yo-yos, you get frisbees, you get randoms, you get a slinky, and to understand and figure out the uses and applications of all these things is just the way in which you do so. There's no guide, there's no characters you speak with, there's none of that. It's just trial and error, and you explore in a way that I feel is similar to how Baldur's Gate and Breath of the Wild challenge what you think of and what you can and can't do. I feel like Animal Well does the same here with what it presented and what it developed, and I applaud him, and it was one of my favorite experiences this year, and why it's my number 9. And let's get into my number 8. My number 8 game of the year is by Arrowhead Game Studios, the one, the only, the game for Super Earth, Helldivers 2. This game is probably the epitome of fun for me this year. I don't think I spent more time in a game just having a blast. Of all the games, this was the one where I feel like I really got to experience multiplayer again, almost like a renewal of joy in that area, where multiplayer for me had always been a challenge. It's either been I'm playing with randoms online with games like Destiny, or I'd be playing scheduled appointments with my brother and cousin, or with a couple close friends. And when this game came out, when Helldivers 2 came out, it was just a growing group of friends that I both knew as acquaintances, and also some that I've been such close friends with, and getting to mix and match all of them in ways I didn't expect. And the memories and experiences I've had with folks over the course of that period of time has been just, it's both hilarious and amazing at the same time. fighting off hordes, making kind of like a last man stand, as well as just, launching your friends in, the physics effects of this game and friendly fire, and there's the utter chaos and satire that it has. It was priceless, and I love everything that NetherRealm Game Studio has been doing and has done and still continues to do. I need to dip back into it a bit more. I know there's a new race involved, but without even without that, it definitely cements itself as in a place on my list. So next up, we have a game that it's one of the 2 games on my list that surprised me in a big way, and this was the first one. This one is 9 Souls by Red Candle Games. This game, oh man, I knew this game was a Metroidvania, and I heard it was a good one, so for that alone, I was very interested to check it out and see what I had to offer. But when I finally did, I was shocked by just what it did. The Metroidvania was great. It's a lot of what you do, the tried and true Metroidvania tropes, mixed with a lot of like the grueling, the more challenging aspects of a Sekiro or Dark Souls. But what it really got me with, and what it sunk its teeth into me, was its story. You follow this character Yi in this futuristic, cyberpunk, Eastern mythology type of blended world. In a way that you're this protagonist and you're seeking vengeance against these 9 warlord ruler type folks, and they're the 9 souls. And over the course of the journey of you seeking vengeance against them, for reasons you'll find out over the course of the game, you and every character you come across are challenged or kind of experiencing a wide variety of really complex stories, blending in things from just personal shame to compromised morals to atonement to societal challenges, or even just personal demons. It was really heavy, and in ways that were very interesting, but also just very gripping. And like, how would you, like, it felt like a modern drama that you would watch on TV, but put into a game. And I know we've talked about games where a lot of times you see it from a AAA game, much like a Naughty Dog game or a game of that ilk, where it's presented in a very cinematic way, or Red Dead Redemption. But to see it in a game like this, it catches you off guard, because the presentation doesn't give it that feeling that you would see it in a story like this. But it was such a wonderful experience. It was such a great game, and I loved every minute of it. I'm so glad I did give it a shot towards the end of the year, and not miss out on it. I really loved playing this game, and why it got itself a spot on my list. Okay, so the next game on my list is the other game that caught me by surprise. This game is an absolute trip. It's by Sunset Visitor, 1000X Resist. I should just give a heads up, because I know a lot of times when you think of games, you think of something that you're just very engaged with in a gameplay kind of way. You're jumping, you're attacking, you're going through puzzles. This isn't of the type of game. It's not uncommon either, but I do think that like the larger majority of players it's often off-putting. But the fact that it's much more of a narrative game. There's very little actual, I would say, gameplay in that of you're doing any kind of real combat or like actual actions. I would say you're going from character to character and engaging with them and having dialogues and unraveling a story that's going on. And it's set in a far-flung kind of future where humanity is almost non-existent, and you're over the course of the 10 chapters of the story, things unravel both about you and about the world and society you live in, that just tackle a wide variety of subjects, that blends a lot of things in tone of like Neon Genesis Evangelion, Nier Automata, Kentucky Route Zero, like these games that like tackle like a lot more existential humanity level stuff, as well as from with a personal touch to it. And the way it handled it here was so interesting. It went through things like family troubles and humanity and cultural identity. It felt like it was blending in things that the developers may, or people they may have known, experienced with a lot of from what I understand it to be the protests that took place in Hong Kong, and how that may have impacted some of the storytelling in this game. And I think for the way in which they tell this story that you're experiencing, it was just, there are elements of it I'm still kind of like dissecting and trying to understand the deeper meanings of, but I know that there's some, it's like that good sci-fi story where the stories where you know that there's an immediate kind of feeling you're getting from it, but also you know that there's a lot of deeper symbolisms and more elaborate, you know, complex thoughts being put into it that I think is very enriching. I think it should be experienced by players. I definitely really enjoyed it. I was grabbed by every chapter. It kind of felt really nice in the bite-sized elements it offered, where each chapter you could just play like, oh, I want to play a chapter. But after around like chapter 4 or 5, it was just, I was off to the gates, and it was an absolute home run for me, and easily made itself one of my number 6 game of 2024. Okay, so the next game I want to talk about is Neva by Nomada Studio. This game is just beautiful from full stop. From the story it presents, from the way it's illustrated and animated, from how you learn to care about Neva as well as you, the protagonist Alba, over this experience. It was just, the whole thing was just beautiful. And while it is one of the shorter experiences I played this year, is about like 5 or so hours, it was definitely one of the ones that left me with the longest kind of impact. It likens itself in a lot of ways to things like Miyazaki's like what's it called, Princess Mononoke, in some ways, just from the look of it, or with the character designs and stuff. But it's so beautiful, and it's so just pure beauty, and I loved every bit of it. That's all I need to say is just how moving it was, and how beautiful of an experience it was to see something that just so fluidly, effortlessly just make its way into my top 5 of this year. I love Neva. Okay, number 4 on my list, and pretty much everything from 5 on, I really feel comfortable that I could say any one of these I could have moved them around so much. I did in fact move them around so much over the course of putting this list together, that I would have been comfortable with any of these kind of being in any spot. But when I finally settled in, there's a reason I have my number 1, and everything else is just, these are all bangers. Like, they're amazing. And this next one is one of them, Metaphor ReFantazio by Studio Zero with Atlas. This year, I think, was the year of RPGs in the biggest way. There were just RPG after Dragon's Dogma, Persona 3 Reload, Dragon Quest 3, Fantasia, Neo Dimension, and Final Fantasy Rebirth, and Metaphor ReFantazio, and so many more. I finally hit a bucket list item of mine, which was finally beating Persona 5 Royal. And man, what this does, after how great a game that was for me, this game was just so ambitious. What it does with its world, it's so enriching from a story perspective. What it builds as its larger story, and the narrative of that, mixed in with all the different elements of each of the character stories you kind of progress as you engage in side quests, as you have dialogues with these characters, and just the meaning and just everything that's going on in this fantasy realm that they have. It's a fully realized world in the best ways, and it's stylized in a way that I couldn't have asked for a better way. Like, if you're familiar with Studio Zero's pedigree, like, they ooze style, and just take a look at any of the things that they've done, and it's in the UI. It goes from everything from the UI through to the game itself. And I loved every minute of it, and it's complemented really well by the gameplay. Like, turn-based RPGs have been struggling, I think, for the longest time to find a place in modern gaming. And with games like this and a few others that have been trying to revamp that, it feels like a breath of fresh air what they're doing. And I loved what Metaphor ReFantazio does, and it's best to be experienced to be really described. And they have a demo. I would really implore you just to like try the demo for free, and then you just progress in the story. But one of the things about the gameplay that I love is the class system that harkens back to like Final Fantasy Tactics, of being able to just change every role as you need to fit for a given encounter, given challenge, or whatever you want to go for. It's one of my favorite parts of that, but it mixes in with so many other things to make up this perfect blend of combat and story that made me want to play this game twice and possibly a third time. The platinum still eludes me. I screwed up on my second playthrough, but we'll see if we have time in 2025. And that's full stop. That's why this game is number 4 on my list. It's Mana for ReFantazio, Chef's Kiss. Okay, let's see. Next up, we got Balatro by Local Funk. One man, much like Animal Well, one man did so much this year and made this game that has taken up all my time on my phone, to all my time on my Steam Deck, to my PC, just playing Balatro. And I need to go first and say that, you know, despite loving card games and despite loving roguelites, I think this game is just amazing and genius in its own right, like without those elements, or without having been a fan of those elements. I think you don't need to love card games or roguelites to enjoy this. If you love just playing poker, or if you love as a game, like the idea of just taking a game as simple and as well known as a game like poker, or chess or something like that, and building on it and making something so creative like this, it's impressive. And I love what he's done with the game. I love the praise it's been getting. I love so many people talking about it. It reminds me of almost like a Stardew Valley, where it's just taken the world by storm in a way. And I think besides Helldivers, this is one of the games that has consumed me the most this year. And that's why it's my number 3 on my top 2024. Okay, we're down to the final 2. And I was flopping between these a lot, but I gotta say Astro Bot by Team Asobi is my number 2 of 2024. There's a formula that I think Mario games have. It's like a secret sauce of creative juices with fun and joy that they just somehow always blend into their games. I think finally someone besides the Nintendo teams have cracked that formula, and that's Team Asobi. And just every level you experience in this game is just fun, and it's joy, and it's creative, and it so much bleeds of that inspiration from those Mario games that like I've just loved over these years to this day, with Odyssey and from Mario 64. And it's nice to see it by someone else too, besides a Nintendo team, because it's the manner in which this game came out in PlayStation's 30th anniversary, and it's very much a celebration of that anniversary. I think when a game, it's in a meta way, is celebrating its own history so much, and the history of the company that it's coming from. It, I mean, your ship in the game is a PlayStation, and you're finding all the pieces of it. Your little mini ship is a PlayStation controller. Like, it's just celebrating of its history, and how they got all the different franchises as a part of it. It just, I think in the way, it's as much as I'm comparing it to Mario, now as I'm talking about it, it reminds me also of like a Super Smash Brothers, where that feels so much a celebration of Nintendo. This feels in its own way as so much a celebration of the PlayStation franchise, and it did it effort. It made it look so effortless. And it was so much fun. I loved every minute of this game. It left me smiling the whole time, and that's why it's my number 2 of 2024. Okay, we're here. We've made it. This is one of the longer videos of the year, but I don't have any guilt of that. My number 1 game this year. This was a game I think that was made for me, and when there were so many games that could have easily been my number 1, this game was the one that just found its way to my heart as much as it did my joy, my brain stimulation, everything else. And that is Ubisoft Montpellier's, forgive me if I mispronounce that, but Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is my number 1 game of 2024. This game, I love a lot of genres. I love tactics games, I love RPGs, I love roguelikes, I love first-person shooters. It took one of those genres, Metroidvanias, and it's one that I love a lot. Hollow Knight is one of my favorite games of all time, and it took this genre that I've such a passion for, and it just across the board elevates it. And from a achievement standpoint, that alone I feel like is a merit for a game. And much like some of these other games I've talked about, their achievements and what they've accomplished for the industry, for the genre, for how we play some of these games. I think each of these has done something in some way to contribute to storytelling, to contribute to gameplay, to contribute to how we view some of these, how we play games, how we experience them. I think what Prince of Persia did is it elevated all the experiences of what makes Metroidvanias, from its traversal to its moment to moment to just everything. Just felt like it was like, hey, the bar is now raised. That's full stop. The bar is just raised. This is now the new standard. And I loved it all. Like, the combat was so amazing, whether it be small encounters with little enemies here and there, to just the better part, to the parts I enjoyed so much more, which is the boss fights. They felt like they took the best things of God of War with the fluidity of movement and added in the fun of the supers you can pull off in Street Fighter, and put it into this little like Prince of Persia blended cocktail that was it was just so like good and fun, and it just felt like every minute just bled into the next minute, and you're just going and moving, and I never felt like I was like doing something stagnantly or whatever like that. But then it takes all that, and the personal touch of it that I think really hit it home for me, of why, as I was debating what my number one was me being, I come from Iranian background, and my culture is Iranian. I grew up with my dad telling me stories of Persian mythology. He would tell me all the stories he knew from the Persian mythology book, the Shahnameh. And I always imagined growing up those stories in the best ways. I'm like, oh man, this would make for a great trilogy if they took the things that they did with Lord of the Rings and they did it here with these stories here, or if they took what they did with Assassin's Creed, or with I don't know if Naughty Dog had the rights to it or whatever. This is the first time I felt like, and I know the Prince of Persia franchise is a storied franchise, but this is the first times that I felt like they really were in tune. The closest they've been in tune with, I think, the Persian cultural sides of it than before, in my opinion. And for that alone, that was just so, it made those fantasies I had feel like a possible reality. And it made me think oh, there's a chance for more of this, for if people loved and any elements of that, it could really go into more genres. And that's usually how that sort of thing, I think, begins, is it starts with one game to really crack the egg open, and everything the floodgates are open. It is bittersweet in some ways, because I feel like the studio, this game, since it came out, the team behind it, the developers that made this, have been disbanded and kind of been put to many other projects and under Ubisoft. And it's really sad in a lot of ways, because I know this game didn't meet the expectations Ubisoft had for it financially, but I applaud the team nonetheless. Those developers, I hope know how much this game has meant to so many people and how much it's loved. It's a thing I should admit, it's probably the game I've gifted the most to. Every chance I get, anyone who I know who I think would enjoy a game like this, I've made sure that this game finds a way into their hands. And I loved it so much. It was an absolute joy, and why it's my number one game of 2024. So that's my list for my top 10 games of 2024. I hope any of this resonated with you. If you found this helpful and enjoyable, let me know what you think, what your top 10 are. I'm really curious what some of your favorite games this year are, if there's any I missed. I'm still trying to catch up on some of the games I've missed this year. There's a lot of standouts that came out. Thank Goodness You're Here was another favorite. Arco. Some of the games I've reviewed earlier this year were big contenders for me. And there's only so many hours in the day, and I look forward to diving in and exploring these games and seeing what these developers did. So until next time, we'll catch you later.